Good evening, Auteur Club. Welcome to another live stream. I'm Angela Green, Executive Director of On Location Memphis. Tonight, we are having a discussion about a topic that is pretty dear to my heart. I mean, most of y'all do know that I'm an attorney by trade, and I worked with independent artists pretty much my whole career. And so, on this journey as an entertainment attorney, I took the approach of really trying to learn all aspects of the entertainment industry, not necessarily just the legal side of it. I figured if I did have a working knowledge of all areas, it would help kind of bring things together for me, and it would basically allow me to give more effective representation to the clients. And so I remember while I was on this journey, I read a book called Record Men. And I don't know, you all may want to look that book up and check it out. And it was a book that basically described all of the many, I would say, label heads, your Tommy Mottola, individuals on that level, Geffen, all the major labels, Sony, Warner Brothers, them. And so each chapter kind of dealt with each of these record label heads. Um, and as I was reading this book, and especially when we got to, I'm trying to think that gentleman's name, um, it was a theme that kept coming up over and over again. Um, they talked about how when they were getting ready to sign an artist to their label, many times those artists didn't have representation, didn't have attorneys, and so they would often refer them to individuals that they call deal makers. These individuals were attorneys. These attorneys didn't work for the labels, but these were attorneys that they knew. They were their friends. They were in the business, so to speak. They represented a lot of different artists. They were very familiar with the deals, the type of deals that these labels were offering, who they were offering them to, based on where these artists were in their careers. And so these were attorneys that these label heads felt comfortable negotiating with. And they often would call them deal makers. And so when I was reading this book and I was kind of thinking about this, I was like, okay, so they're sending these artists to these attorneys who are not technically, they don't work for the firm for these record labels, but they are familiar with them. What happens if there's a dispute, or if there's something comes up and now the artist is at odds with that record label? I started that kind of came into my mind. And so then I thought about, I know all of you all have heard of the stories behind TLC. They were represented by an attorney that was referred to them by LaFace Records. And that attorney essentially negotiated their deal with LaFace Records. Well, of course, we know famously they fell out with LaFace Records over the deal points and the money that they were making. And they talked about how they attempted to go back to their attorney to get assistance with this situation, but that attorney couldn't help them. They felt as though that the attorney basically turned their backs on them. And so I thought about that. And then I even thought about myself, as an attorney who works with a lot of different independent artists. And, many of them want me to put them together, do deals for them. And sometimes they would have disputes and they would come back to me and I would attempt to try to mediate those disputes. But even I knew deep down I could not specifically get into the weeds of defending them in that situation because of the conflicts of interest that were there, the conflicts of interest that they knew were there when they came to me to begin with. So when I started putting all this together, I realized these artists need to identify a litigator. They need to identify that other person who can come in and litigate their position when they have disputes in these deals. But the deal maker has their place, because the deal maker is the person who has the relationships. The deal maker is the one who is able to get you through the door, to get you in front of the people that you're trying to get in front of. But you have to recognize with that deal maker what they're there for, their purpose, and you have to recognize their limitations. So when I started formulating this, I actually wrote a book. I put it out in 2018 called Music Industry Gladiators. And it was a pamphlet that just pretty much put these concepts that was coming to my mind on paper so that I can just articulate exactly what it is that I was saying about the fact that if you are putting together a team in the industry, you need to identify a deal maker. That's an attorney who can help you with the deals. But you also need to identify a litigator. And this litigator is that attorney who understands the business, but they are not per se directly in the business, which means they don't have any conflicts of interest in suing or litigating anybody that you may have a dispute with. And so I know in talking to different attorneys, and many of the ones that I've come across, most of them, when I started explaining this concept to them, I said, well, who do you think you are? Every time. Oh, I'm a deal maker. I'm a deal maker. I'm a deal maker. I'm a deal maker. They want to be a deal maker. I mean, when you're in law school, when you talk about being in the entertainment industry, you're really talking about being a deal maker because you want to work with the artists and do the deals. And so I was on a journey to find that litigator because I know that's who my artist needs. And there are a lot of different situations that come up, and you need to know when you need that deal maker, and then you also need to know when you need that litigator. And so just recently, like in the last 10 years or so, I actually have identified some litigators. And this firm that I'm just really happy to have, they've also become close friends of mine. I've referred a multitude of my artist clients who've had litigation issues to them, and it's worked out to be a very a very profitable, I would say profitable, but also a very fulfilling relationship, because now I feel as though I'm able to help my clients completely. You know, no matter what the situation comes up that they find themselves in, I'm able to point them in the right direction, and we're able to get a resolution for them, as long as they're in a position to be able to partake in that resolution. So I'm going to, hello, glad you can make it. I'm going to call to the virtual stage first um, the owner of this firm and the creator, the founder of this firm, Kaufman Moreau, Miss Marty Kaufman first. Hi, Marty.
Hi, Angela. Thank
And
you so much for having us.
absolutely. And then now I'm going to call her son, who's the new associate of the firm, Zachary Monroe. So that is Kaufman Monroe.
Good evening.
Good evening. I am
You
so
can tell he's the young lawyer. He has the JD after his name.
absolutely right. That's okay. That's okay.
That's okay. It's great.
It's great, but I appreciate you all joining me tonight to kind of discuss this. Why don't you both first just kind of give us a little background on yourself, and we'll start with you, Marty, and then we'll move on to you, Zach.
Okay. Um, Hi to everybody who is watching live or soon to tune in. My name is Marty Kaufman. I have been a trial lawyer, which is another word for litigator, for 38 years. Um, I handle all kinds of matters. Basically, the word litigator comes from the word litigation, and a litigator is a person, quite simply, that goes to court, files lawsuits, defends lawsuits, that type of thing. I also, in the course of my practice, um, I do contract work, I do personal injury work, I do criminal defense work, I do other types of civil litigation, pretty much anything out there, and I do. I have really enjoyed doing the entertainment litigation since Angela and I have established a relationship. But I've been around a long time. I've spent a lot of time in courtrooms. They're my happy place. And one thing I think you need to, well, I'll get into this later. That's enough about me. About almost 2 years ago, my son Zachary started practicing law with me, and joined the family business. His father, my husband, is a retired litigator also. He had some health issues, had to step aside. So um, Zach's into the family business here and doing a great job. Take it
Awesome.
away.
Take it away, Zach.
Good evening, everybody. Given the introductions I just received, I think my name's self-explanatory. I'm Zach Monroe. I've been practicing for a couple of years now. I'm a giant nerd for this stuff, which really comes in handy more often than you might think. But it's a lot of fun to work with my mom and get to do just about everything that involves putting our backsides in a courtroom. And there's nothing more fun than a client that comes from Angela with such a good relationship that we have with her, to take that client, treat them well, and find a positive outcome for that client so that our relationship continues to grow and we can continue to help more of her clients. So frankly, we're happy to be here.
Awesome. So, since I've been, just to kind of give the audience an idea, what have been some of the types of cases that I have referred to you when it comes to the entertainment side?
Well, uh, one of the most recent cases that we've dealt with on the entertainment side has to do with a band that split up, and long story short, they're fighting over the use of the band name and a trademark. So it's been extensive litigation. It covers a lot of different areas of law. It covers trademark law, state, federal, and common law. It covers contract law. Um, it's difficult litigation for the clients because the people watching this, you are entertainers, and you become like family often with the people that you are in business with. And we're knee deep in that case right now, trying to make things come out for our client. Zach, can you think of some other entertainment cases?
Several of the other ones that we've dealt with have largely been, we had a contract that said X, but we forgot to mention Y, so Z, and the Z is what we're here for. That's what a lot of it really comes down to.
A lot of it is bad contracting,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's a problem, or there's a phrase left out of a contract, or a trademark is not registered, or it's, you think you're friends with the person you're in business with, you think a handshake is going to work, and people come to us when everything blows up.
So contract disputes are usually the main thing, and fighting over intellectual property, which is
Correct.
pretty much the case that's going on right now. And so I think it would really put copyright infringement, that sort of thing may
Correct.
eventually come up. And I think it was another case dealing with a song. Someone had basically infringed upon their copyright in their song, and
Right.
wondered if they need to file their lawsuit on that. So a lot of those issues do come up, and then some of them are not music related, because I think we had one case dealing with it was a lease. I think the studio lease.
Yes, it was.
They were in dispute with their landlord concerning the lease on their studio. And so a lot of this, it kind of gives you an idea of what's going on here as far as the type of cases, the type of issues that you may find yourself in, and you being able to find someone who can basically take it there. Now, of course, they can help you with the other aspects that may not be directly associated with music, because you said criminal defense, which
Yes.
runs rampant in the entertainment industry, unfortunately.
And I've done a tremendous amount of that in my career. First 12 years of my career, that's all I did, was criminal defense work. And we do everything basically but bankruptcy, and we do not do real estate closings. We do real estate litigation, but not closings. So we're kind of an unusual law firm in that we touch on a lot of things. We like it that way. It keeps it interesting.
As you so rightly point out, folks often forget that when you hire an attorney to help you prepare a document, that might not be the same attorney who can then help you fight over what that document means or what its implications might be. So oftentimes, people don't even realize they're going to need us. They think, exactly as you were saying at the beginning of the video, they think they'll go back to the person who helped them with the document in the first place for assistance, only to find out that person isn't a litigator. So a lot of the times, we get cases in that way where they go back to the other attorney to be told they can't get help there and then come to us. Sometimes it starts from scratch. Sometimes we help them incorporate their business, got them divorced, defended them in a DUI, and then they come to us. You know, the way these things can happen can include an infinite number of permutations.
Right. And it all falls back to whether or not you are really covering your bases when you're putting entering into these agreements. Because we know with entertainment, it's just contract law and it's intellectual property law. I mean, essentially, that's what it is. And it's all different facets of it. But you have to be able to make sure that you're covering your bases, and that you know exactly when is it time to send in this litigator. And then I think it's important too, in the fact that we work together, we're able to kind of explain or give them an idea of the industry, how the industry thinks, how the industry reacts, and that sort of thing. Because you want to try to stay out of court as much as possible if you can, but you do need to have a credible threat, is what I always say. Many times, people in the industry, they know the deal makers. They know you don't go to court. They know, they know who you are. So even if you may start with your dealmaker attorney to try to mitigate or try to negotiate a situation, if you if they feel as though you're not going to go to court, a lot of times they're not going to make any change if they're not being authentic in their negotiations. They're like, many people in the industry are like, make me. You know what I'm saying? I know what the law says, but make me.
In
And
that point, Angela, so one of the things that Angela and I have done together is she'll be handling a problem for one of you and trying to mediate the issue, get it resolved. I apologize for the train sounds if you can hear them, but I'm at my office. And it gets to the point where people or other lawyers know Angela is not a litigator. So they know she's not going to file a lawsuit and she'll turn it over to me. Well, the legal community, like me or hate me, but the legal community knows that I'm a litigator. I'm not afraid to go to court. And often we'll get traction on a case because that's exactly what she was just saying. Make me, okay, I'll make you. I'll send it to a litigator. Sometimes I can then get involved, not and get it resolved even before it goes to court, not because I'm a better lawyer than Angela, but just I'm more of a threat because other lawyers know I'll go to court. So
It's a difference of leverage, because
right,
that's the problem people make oftentimes, is they forget that the credible threat, as you say, is your leverage in that negotiation. If somebody says make me, well, your response can't be to point an empty gun at them. And
right.
oftentimes that's exactly what people do, and surprise surprise, they don't get any value add from that non-existent leverage. Then you bring in people like us to complement a team of people like you, and you've got all the perfect kinds of leverage you could ever hope for to position yourself in that negotiation as well as you can.
Absolutely.
and we love tag teaming like that, don't
Oh
we?
yeah, yeah.
It's a lot of
We
fun.
love it. Yeah, absolutely. So, and the thing, so as attorneys, I mean, as artists, you have to think about what's going on in certain situations, because there are times when a artist may bring a situation to me, and based on what they have said to me, I may forego that initial part of trying to mitigate, because maybe the situation has gone too long, or maybe I just know based on the communication this person is not going to move. I may tell you, no, I think you need to go ahead and spend the money right here, as opposed to, you can spend some money with me, but if I know pretty much it's not going to do anything, you're wasting money. You need to go ahead and just go to the credible threat and just put it on out there, because you may end up saving money. You may have to put up the money, but you may end up saving money because once they get that letter from that attorney, or if they get that draft of that lawsuit that is about to be filed, that may get the movement that you're looking for in that particular situation. So there, it just depends on what's going on. Because there have been situations where I say, you know what, this is a waste of my time and a waste of your money for me to write this letter to try to do this, because either I know these people, or based on what you're communicating to me and the length of time that this has been going on, these people need a little bit harder of a push. They don't need just the letterhead. They need a lawsuit, or they need to know or feel that someone is about to file a lawsuit.
Let
So
me may I make a comment about that?
absolutely.
So, and this is taking money, of course, we love what we do. And I don't often speak for Zachary, but we both love what we do. We love being litigators. We love being in court. We love helping people. But to the young artists out there, particularly, what we see a lot of times is, in your effort to avoid spending small amounts of money at the beginning of a business deal, you wind up in our office spending tremendous sums of money. So, my advice to you is, when you are setting up your business structure, when you're setting up a partnership, when you're setting up an arrangement for royalties to be divided, or gig fees to be divided, or whatever you're doing, go to the deal maker, go to a lawyer that drafts contracts, which we also do. And I'm not necessarily even talking about it, not just with the record label, but with each other and with partners, and spend that little bit of money to get your paperwork in order. And it will save you having to come and see people like this often. But then if you're forced to come and see us anyway, and more of your ducks are in a row, and your documents are clean and your documents are tight, then we can even do a better job for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it is better to go ahead and just spend that money on the front end and get it done right. And it just helps you. It is a deterrent. That's why a lot of times people, when you talk about copyrights, I usually advise people, go ahead and file your copyrights, even if you have to do it as a collection. And most people say, but you get your copyrights automatically. I mean, by law, as soon as you put it down and put it in a fixed manner, you have the copyright. I say, yes, but you can't go into court and force it without filing the copyright. So why don't you just go on and file the copyright? Plus, when people know that you have the copyright, that's a deterrent a lot of times, or it encourages them to work with you and to deal with you on a more business level, because they understand that you understand business, and that you're willing to do what it takes to protect your intellectual property. So don't cut the corners on what you're trying to do. Now, we're in Memphis, Tennessee. How far is your reach as far as what you do? Is it just for Tennessee?
Well, we both hold licenses. We can go anywhere in the state. Our practice takes us, I go, right now, I have cases as far as Murfreesboro. So, as far east as Nashville, headed down towards Murfreesboro. I've had cases in Knoxville. I've had cases in Chattanooga. Um, that includes state and federal court here. We are not currently licensed in any other state, but Zachary will be soon. That's a young person's job to get dual licensure, because you have to take a lot of tests and stuff. Um, but certainly all of West Tennessee, I'll say I have clout. The judges know me. I'm respected. I don't know if every lawyer I deal with likes me, but I think people respect me, and respect the talents that we bring. We're a small firm, but we outwork everybody. Angela can
I'll
attest to
attest to
that.
that. I'll attest to that.
We work really hard. The way I walk into a courtroom confidently is to be over prepared. That's what
Hmm.
gives me my strut.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
Zach, how about you?
The only way I walk into a courtroom is so confident I don't need to look at anything again, because I know everything like the back of my hand already.
Yeah, and that's
And
not a
that's how you
brag.
win.
Yeah,
No, that's the right way to do this job.
right.
Hmm. We have a question. Why is this information not taught or required for artists? I would say Sharon, and this is Sharon Brooks with Power Media Solutions.
Hi, Sharon.
We know that, I mean, artists, this is on the job training, basically. Um, they're not teaching this in school. This is what people learn over time, just in doing things and just maybe getting their head knocked a couple of times. And it's just like, oh, maybe I need to do this or maybe I need to do that. Um, that's the reason why it's not taught. Um, but I want to try to at least put that out there on the front end because artists, back in, I guess in the early days, 50s, 60s, whatever, the record labels took care of the artists. They pretty much handled all the business. The artist was able to kind of focus on their craft, focus on performing, and the labels took care of all the business. Well, things are changed. The artist is their own business, and they were really their own business back then. They just didn't realize it. That's why they got ripped off so much, because they were allowing someone else to handle the business.
Because they didn't have you and us.
Exactly. So, but now they understand they're in business, and the labels are basically forcing them. Say, no, you're independent contract, you're in business, you have to handle your business. So they're having to learn what it takes to run their business effectively, how to pull that team together, and who needs to be on that team. And so now that we know that that's what's going on, we're starting to think about, hey, how do we pull the right people? How do we use the money that we have, which for many of them is not a lot of money? So how do we effectively spend our money in the right places so that we can be successful in this industry, not lose our shirts, and actually, make some money? And this is something very important because I've dealt with artists my whole career, independent artists, and I've had so many of these situations come up. And early on in my career, I didn't have anybody to send them to. I was one of those attorneys that I'm like, I can't help you, because I knew deep down my bread and butter was relationships as a deal maker. I needed to maintain my relationships with the different artists and the different people that I was doing business with. And so I can't get too far left in litigation or too far left in a dispute because of the relationships that I have to maintain in order to effectively do what I mainly do, which is to do deals. And I do that more than deal with disputes. So I knew that they needed someone else on their team, but even I was having difficulties finding that person. And so that's why I'm just so thankful that we have Kaufman and Moreau here in Memphis and for the state of Tennessee, that people can identify and say, okay, I got a litigation issue. This is who I need to talk to. Now, I'm going to tell you, if you need that litigation, they're not nickel and you can't come in here nickel and diming people, because that's not how litigation works. So why don't you all just kind of just give them a heads up and explain how does the process works with litigation, and what kind of fees are you looking for? Are you kind of you may be up to or maybe liable for when you're entering into a litigation lawsuit?
That's really a good question for her to answer, but there's one thing I want to add first. There's a cliche in law school that you hear all the time: an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. In this situation, that's exactly the idea. You'd rather spend some money now than spend 50 times as much later. Take it away.
Okay. And again, Zach was going back to what I was saying earlier, which is please take care of your business on the front end. I would love for you to be my client, our client. But you're going to spend some real money when you walk into this office that you might have been able to avoid by spending a couple $1,000s on the front end. So if here's how it works. We charge what we call a retainer fee. And it depends on the type of litigation, but that retainer fee can be anywhere from $6,500 to $10,000. And there's a bunch of variables that go into that. We take that money and we put it into our trust account. Our time bills, we bill our time. My time bills at $375 an hour. Zach's bills at $275. et cetera, et cetera. My paralegal has a billing time, and those rates change. You know, if you come see me a year from now, that may or may not be it. But what we do is everything we do for you, everything we do for you, we bill in tenth of hour increments, which is 6 minute increments. We have a computer system. We talked to you on the phone. We had an office conference with you. I sent an email. I drafted a pleading. We went to court, whatever it is, we bill it. And as long as that retainer is still in our escrow account, we draw against that retainer. You get a bill every 30, 45 days or so showing exactly how much money you started with, what we've done, how much money you have left in retainer. Um, if that retainer gets used up at any point in time, then your bill for that month would show, oh, look, you owe me X amount of dollars, whatever it happens to be. And litigation can be expensive because it takes a lot of time and we bill by time. So you're talking about spending a lot of money when you start litigating. Again, this is taking business out of our pocket, but take care of your business on the front end. And if you have a problem that Angela can't help you with on the front end, that you need a contract reviewed or anything like that, I am not a deal maker in the entertainment industry. Um, but if it's, you go to her, she knows what to send our way. And I send business to her as well. But that's how we work. We account for all of our time.
That's our commodity. As lawyers, that's the only thing we sell. That's how we make a living, is our time is our commodity. And the advantage for you is that you get the both of us, which means you get the benefit of wisdom and experience along with the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed youth exuberance and all of that kind of stuff. So we're a pretty solid team, frankly.
Absolutely. And it's the research that goes, and that's where the time goes into it.
A lot of it.
Researching the cases, making sure you can formulate the proper arguments so that you can articulate your position before the judge.
Right.
And
Research is a very big part of it. You would think that when we take on a case, we don't need to research anything. Take me, for example, I've been doing this 38 years. There is not one day that goes by in my work life where I've known everything I needed to know. And I think I've said this to Angela before. I would love that day to go, wow, I knew every single thing I needed to know that day. One of the great things you get with Zachary, though, is legal research is now computerized. When I came up, we did it in books, and he is a whiz. And so the fact that research is computerized and somebody is so good at it, that's one of the ways that we're able to compete with the big law firms, is because of technology. You know, technology now takes the place of 3 lawyers. So,
absolutely. So I want to thank both of you all for joining me tonight, and just for you taking the time to kind of share with our audience as far as your services, what you're here. And I'm letting you all know we do have litigators, entertainment litigators here in Memphis, Tennessee, for the state of Tennessee. And we do have artists here in Memphis as well as outside of Memphis. They're here. I think Zach has I think he has an account, I think, in the Auteur club. But if not, we'll get that. So you'll have someone that you can turn to in the club and just reach out to them. And I think they do free consultations. Am I correct?
For you, absolutely. Anyone you send us.
So they will do a free, at least an initial free 30-minute consultation on a situation if you feel like you're moving in that direction. But I'm looking here in the chat. I don't see any questions. So I'm not going to hold anybody over past their time if there's no need to. But I just want to thank you all for joining me. And I want to thank you all for being on this live. And we have quite a few people on the live. But I guess they're just quietly watching and
So captivated by you, Angela. That's what it is.
Right.
You're radiant beauty.
Taking it all in. But I appreciate you all coming in tonight for this Auteur Club Live. Again, Zachary's going to have a profile in the club. So in case you do need someone on the litigation side, you can definitely reach out to him. Of course, through the club, you do have legal access to myself as well as Devin with On Location Memphis for those contracts and things of that nature on the front end. So if you do need some assistance there, feel free to reach out to us. Uh, I see Sandra. She just wanted to thank you all for the information.
You're welcome.
You're welcome,
Most
Sandra.
welcome.
And without further ado, I will bid you all a good night.
Thank you so much for having
Thank
us,
you.
Angela.
You're welcome.